and now the world's religions are responding to climate change. Thank you, Randy.
So this rally is about making the climate emergency part of Ontario's election process. The climate crisis is a global justice issue, and we must put forefront the question: which parties in this election, in Canada's most populous and highest emitting province, are best positioned to think about the climate emergency as global justice? Who will be best positioned to deal with the fact that the climate emergency affects peace and security around the world? Who will be best positioned to deal with the fact that the climate emergency affects women more severely than men? Who will be best positioned to deal with the facts that we are already getting climate-induced immigration into Ontario? In this election, and in our advocacy after the election, how do we help the parties in government or in opposition to see the global justice ramifications of this province and what it is doing or not doing on the climate emergency? Climate impacts are not new. At Kairos, we've heard frequently over decades from our partners in the Global South who have been pointing out for those many years that the climate emergency is disproportionately affecting and felt by poor and marginalized communities, especially by women, by racialized and Indigenous communities, both in Canada and around the world. This is what we mean when we refer to the climate emergency as global climate justice. These impacts and Canada's and Ontario's weak responses to climate change are examples of environmental racism and need to be decolonized. From our global partners, Kairos has learned that many of the human justice effects of the climate emergency have been caused by Canada's extractive resource companies working abroad, displacing communities, ignoring or actually countering human rights in the Global South. As they help the climate worsen. Boo! We need corporate accountability, and only governments can do that. So make the climate emergency and global justice part of Ontario's election campaign. As I mentioned, even immigration is a climate issue. All these things are interlinked. Immigration has already caused a significant number of migrant workers and others to come to Canada. They had no other choice but to leave their countries. And there are very few policies in place from the government that recognize this, allow for climate refugees, or give them access to adequate resources to integrate into Canadian society. I give you more details on any of these issues that I've mentioned. They are all interlinked to the point that as we talk about environmental justice, as we think about global justice, it even means opposing wars, as we've seen in South Sudan, Syria, Yemen, Ukraine. So this election season, we need to make sure that the climate emergency is given the attention that it deserves as a global crisis of ecological justice. Can the incoming Ontario government do what is needed for the people and the planet? Let us, the citizens and voters, make sure that it does.